And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at a game that I was really excited to play called Townsfolk Tussle. In this game, you have these artwork here. I was very attracted to the artwork. It's very similar to a popular video game called Cuphead, but there's old timey-wimey art, but with like blood splatters. I mean, you can see blood coming down the cover here. This is a game in which you are townsfolk in this little cartoony Betty Boop town. And you're all weird backstories and stuff. And the sheriff has been killed. And some ruffians have done so. So you're going to fight these ruffians. Now, unlike many games that are out there, this is not necessarily a campaign game. This is a single game, but you play 4 different ruffians. You fight them. So it's like having 4 boss fights in a row. You're going to come in, tactically move around, roll dice, try to fight the enemy, and in the middle, buy some equipment. Here's some more details, and then we'll be right back. In this game, you're going to play against 4 different bad guys. You'll draw from a pile of discs, and then one of them will be the chump, one will be the hooligan, one will be the troublemaker, and one is the final fight. So each of these different enemies that you're going to fight are going to have their own board, and on their board, it tells you how many movement and health that they're going to have based on the number of players, what special abilities will be involved depending on their level. If it's the final fight side, they have a whole section here that they will use only in the final fight. Also, it shows you the setup. This shows you where the enemy is going to be. It shows you where those T's are, where the townsfolk, you the players, are going to be, and then where all the different terrain is going to be on the board. And so there's quite a few, 11 different villains, but a game of this is any 4 of these villains. So you're going to just, I mean, you could pick the 4 villains, I suppose, but every game will be different as you play through all 4 villains. Each player is a townsfolk, and there'll be one of these characters. Each townsfolk comes with some stats on them. You have your health, and there's a little red disc that you can use to show you your maximum health because you can't heal above that health. There's movement, which shows how far you can move. There's moxie, which in this game think of as action points. You spend moxie to do various things. And then there's accuracy, which you will add to your dice when you attack. So the Henlo Bulwark, the paranoid law dodger, here gets -1 when they roll the dice. But there are ways to increase your stats. Each character also comes with some special abilities. So for example, Granny Melba here is farsighted and also is a lover's discount because she's in love with the peddler. And then players will start with some equipment. So for example, Granny Melba starts, it tells you here at the bottom, with Granny's cane and the Rudy Tutor. So these are some weapons that Granny has. She has no armor to start the game. Each weapon requires a certain amount of moxie to use. When you roll for this weapon to hit, you need to roll that number or higher, and then that's how much damage it does. It also might have some special things. For example, the Rudy Tutor here has a range of 5, and when the Rudy Tutor is used, it can't be used on the following turn. So this is starting equipment, but you've spot for headgear, chest gear, leg gear, accessory, and right and left hand. The game is made up of 8 rounds. There's a town phase, and then you fight a combat phase where you fight one of the villains. Then a town phase, then a combat phase. So the town phase happens first. Players start with 10 coins, and in turn order, players can buy new weapons, new accessories for the amount shown here. You can also sell off stuff that you have if it has a cost on here to get more money. Players can also pay 2 coins per townsfolk to wipe everything on the peddler's cart and draw more things. But before this happens, players are going to draw feats. So there's a deck of feat cards. Players will always have 3 feats per any round. If they accomplish whatever happens here. So for example, if you had to turn 10 squares away from the ruffian, the villain, when this happens, you can reveal this card. It's worth a point, and you're collecting points because in the final fight, whoever has most points is going to be the sheriff. But it also gives you an ability, some more coins to use in the next town phase, or you'll get your stat increase for that fight. So maybe +2 movement. This one gives me 2 coins or adds 1 to my accuracy. This gives 2 points or 1 to my moxie for this fight. And you just have to do whatever it says on here. After a fight's over, you can discard ones you did not use, and you'll draw up to 3. Players will each also draw a town event. These town events are just kind of all sorts of things will happen. A town bard. Some of them are secret though, and you keep them hidden, and sometimes you have to reveal them. So like for example, this is the cornfield crawler. Keep this card face down in front of you. The next time another townsfolk ends their turn in the overgrown cornfield, reveal it, they take 2 damage. And you can't tell them that you have it. You can't tell them what it is. All they know is that you have a secret card. So there's a lot of secret cards, and then other cards that will just make various events happen. Sometimes they cause you to roll a die. So everyone's going to draw 3 feats, draw an event card, then you can buy this. Then we go to the fight phase. So then it's time to fight the ruffian. Now I already mentioned it will show you how to set up the board with all the terrain, and then there's a few things that might be on the board if you're doing the final fight. This is if it's the final fight, and there's some more special rules that will come into play. Otherwise, if you're playing them on chump, hooligan, or troublemaker, they might have a special ability on hooligan and troublemaker specifically, but other than that, you'll just place that there. It tells you where their movement and their health is. You're also going to get a special deck that's used for that character. So Samuel Strawman has his own deck here, and then the game will begin. This round will begin. The beating order here, you always have the ruffian first, and then everybody else goes there. So when the ruffian goes, they simply turn over a card, and it will tell you what they do next. So for example here, it says Strawman extends his clippers and charges forward. Turn toward the closest townsfolk and move forward. He does 2 damage to any townsfolk that collides with him. And so he would do that. He would turn and then go to the closest person. Now fortunately that didn't hurt anybody, but it could have. If you're not sure who the closest is, many times there might be a tie. Players will roll a die each, and whoever gets the lower number is closest to them. Now that was a fairly innocuous card, but there's all sorts of cards, and sometimes they deal with the very specific terrain that's out there. Players on their turn are going to do what they can. They're going to move if they want to, and then they will also spend their moxie. So it's like a virtual currency that you have. So for example, Henlo has 2 moxie that she's going to use, and each thing can only be used once. So if someone's attacking, let's say you have the fisherman in the game and he's using the reliable rod here. He needs a 6 accuracy. So you'll roll the die, try to get higher than a 6. Yes, a 6 or higher gets it. So then he would do 1 damage to the ruffian. The ruffian takes damage, but you'll notice there's some red spots here. When you hit that red spot, the person's turn is immediately over, and you draw another card and do that card. Other than that, the ruffian will go after all the heroes have gone. So heroes are basically running around trying to attack the ruffian and do things, or they can interact with terrain. A card is placed at the bottom of the board for each of the terrain types. Like for example, the foul outhouse here. You can attack it, and it does 2 damage to all characters within 2 squares. But you still need to roll your accuracy to see if you can hit the outhouse. The rickety farm, you can go up there and knock on the door, roll a die, and see if the farmer will come out and help you. If it's an obstacle, you can't move into it. Those are the brown cards. The green cards you can go into, like you can even hide in the haystack, or you can, you have to spend more movement to cross the dangerous ditch, but you might find a secret treasure down in there. So the different terrain is going to be out on the board. And like I said, many times the character will interact with the terrain. So for example, Samuel Strawman will also run into here sometimes, and then you'll have to go in there to get him, or he'll drag you in there with some little mini scarecrows. So this will continue. If a hero's hit points are knocked, if they go down to 0, they're knocked out. If everyone's knocked out, you lose. Otherwise, once you defeat the Samuel Strawman or whoever the ruffian is, everyone's going to get 6 coins, plus any coins you got from finishing the different tasks that you have. You'll do another buying phase and then go fight the next bad guy. If you beat the final bad guy, there's a possibility of you winning or super winning. And at the end, when you fight the person as a final boss, it tells you here, if you defeat them, read 21 in the book. There's like a paragraph that tells you what you want. But also, there's a special thing that you can do. And if you do it that way, you'll read a different thing instead. And then if you lose, you read this, and it talks about how he takes over the town. Sometimes when you win, if you win in a special way, more cards will get added to the peddler deck, or you even might have new starting equipment for your characters in future games. Anyway, that's how you play. So first of all, we need to talk about the theme for this. The theme for this is absolutely fantastic. For each person, like Quentin's bench here. He says, do something about a chump. He's a kid who joined the Boy Scouts mostly to kick everyone out. He's a bully and a jerk. And so when the ruffian shows up, he's like, woo, I can beat on somebody for free. And so they have these full stories here for each of these people. This guy's a terrible blacksmith, so whenever he breaks off part of his body, he puts a new part on. And so they're kind of funny, but also dark sometimes at the same time as you go through these. Virginia Fitz is mad. I mean, the whole thing starts out, like I said, because the sheriff died, which they show you in the rule book. Oh no, the sheriff is dead. And all the bad guys have a very different reason for killing the sheriff. My favorite bad guy is probably Bort Dovis, who's not even a bad guy. You just think he is. You think he's a ruffian, and he accidentally hurts you by taking selfies and pictures and things like that. But they're all cool. The artwork is good. Now, the game comes with standees, but I use the miniatures. That's what came in my version, and the miniatures are all really cool. Now, they definitely need to be painted. You know, so I will be getting these painted, but I just love this artwork. It's definitely Cuphead inspired. Now, the card quality here is nice, and like I said, I mean, look at the art here. It's just fantastic, and there's dividers. The card quality is good, but the one thing I did not like, there's an insert here, and for the life of me, I couldn't figure out how to get everything in. I got most of it in, but I couldn't figure out how to get the terrain in. They put up a video on their website that shows you how to do it, but I just found that to be, I have to go find the video again after I pack this up because I can't remember how exactly all the terrain fits in. But that's my minor thing. I will say one cool thing. This is a great way to showcase your Kickstarter backers. Very rarely do I see this sort of thing done. Here, I mean, done well. Usually it's like a big list of names. But here I was very, very happy with how this was done. It's a neat way to do it, and I recommend that other companies think of ways to do stuff like this. When I give ratings to this game, I have to give a rating for the theme. I love everything about the theme. I've read all the backstories of the villains and the heroes. The ending paragraph at the end is fantastic, whether you win or lose. So I liked how the game looks. There's a lot of good things. My complaint about fitting everything in the box is very minor. Other than that, the components are absolutely stellar. Now, let's talk about the game, though. So this is not a campaign game, like I said. You're playing through 4 villains in a row. And I wonder that they couldn't have included like a shortened 3 villains, because 3 villains feels like it might be a little the right length. 4 villains is, they say 45 minutes per player, and maybe once you play the game it's a little faster than that, but that's a little accurate, but it might feel a little bit longer. But that would be my only complaint about that. I mean, I like the fact that it's not a campaign game. I like the fact that, you know, sometimes you just want to go in and play a game. And even though there's only 11 ruffians in the box, the order they come out in is going to be different each turn. And it's like, oh, this time we're fighting, you know, Will Barlow. You know, how are we going to fight Will this time? And I think that's enjoyable. And it's neat to mix and match the 4. I mean, you can pick them randomly, or you can mix and match them to your thing, and you can say, I want to fight this guy as the bad guy. Now, they do have this campaign thing where at the end you unlock cards that will go in the deck for a future time. Okay, I don't know that matters that much. It gives you like some sort of thing to go on for future one, but I like just playing the game straight as is. Not everything needs to be campaign, and this works really well that way. But I guess if there is a campaign, it's that jumping from one game to the other. But let's talk about the game itself. So it has the 4 phases, the buying phase, which sometimes there's not good stuff to buy, and sometimes there is, and either way, it's more, again, about the uniqueness of the stuff. There's not like amazing weapons and terrible ones. There's decent and good weapons. There's all kinds of fun equipment to use, and it's more about the thematic hilarious of it. And it's a giant deck. I mean, this is all the cards that comes in that deck. You're never going to see all these cards. There's a ton of them. And I think that's really cool. And the artwork, they're all unique and different. It's just fun. So I also like the fact that there's a buying phase at the very beginning of the game. That's neat. Now, the actual game itself, I've seen this before. Flip a card. It tells you how the villain moves. Those cards add more theme to the game. They're like, oh, this is happening here. This person, the tourist one is my favorite. He grabs you to take a selfie and accidentally squeezes you too hard. Take 1 point of damage. So that's all pretty simple. I mean, it's really easy to play. I could teach this game in 5 minutes probably, maybe a little bit longer, but not much longer. You flip a card, and then you move and fight. Now, here's some slight negatives. The moving and fighting, what the character does in a turn, well, there's not a lot of thought you put into that. Do I have a ranged weapon? Move away, shoot. Do I have a close combat weapon? Move up, hit. Maybe there's terrain that's nearby me to interact. I have those little cards or those things I'm trying to do, so maybe I'll do that. But there's not a lot going on. And then there's a huge amount of luck. You're rolling a 10-sided die. Most of the weapons hit on a 5 or a 6 or higher, which means you hit 50% of the time. There's a critical hit. When you roll that, you get to roll another critical hit thing, which if you're lucky, you can knock a piece of the enemy off and use that as a weapon. That's all really fun. Also, I didn't mention, when you defeat a ruffian, you get a piece of equipment from them randomly that goes to somebody. That's all fun. That's cool. But it is very random. The event card, sometimes you get an event card that just messes you over. Sometimes you get one that helps you out exceedingly. The movement of how the cards of the bad guy come out, I mean, it's very programmable, but it's also random what they do. You just need to kind of accept that as part of the game. I actually think, and this is a weird thing, I think the first fight is the hardest fight, because even though the bad guy gets a little stronger, after that first fight, you have some more money, you can buy more equipment and things like that. And in fact, when we played one time, we lost our first fight, and I was like, we didn't lose, let's go to the second fight, because we just wanted to go to the second fight and go onward. It's hard, but not excessively hard. You all know that I'm not a big fan of games that are too difficult. I don't think this game's too difficult. Well, I've beaten it, but it does feel like sometimes we won because we just got really lucky. So if you can deal with that amount of luck in a game, I think you'll have a good time. Now, there's a lot of people comparing this to Kingdom Death Monster. I've not played Kingdom Death Monster yet, as of the recording of this, although it's really close in the docket. I'm currently reading through the rules. There does seem to be some similarities, but this is way lighter. I'm still reading through the Kingdom Death Monster rules. Like I said, I could teach this in less than 10 minutes. It's really straightforward. You just got to go into it knowing there's a lot of luck, there's a lot of stuff, and you got to kind of let yourself get into the theming of it. I mean, 10 out of 10 on the theme. I really like this theme. This is the second game kind of with this theme that's come out in the past year, so that's exciting. But I also like moving around and fighting stuff, and I like that the terrain cards are there. That's fantastic. What does that do? It tells me right there. All games should have terrain cards. And again, there's not a whole lot of thought that goes into things. I move here, do this, roll dice, and it's just entertaining as all get out. The whole thing's entertaining. I'm entertained when I'm getting destroyed by the ruffian. And so if you're looking for a game like that, I really can recommend Townsfolk Tussle. I'm Tom Vasel. We'll see you next time. Dice Tower Judgment approved!